Nice to see you this morning. Okay, so we are holding on the 7th page of the copies of the Mimer, line 16, Ois Daled, page Yud Aleph. And we were explaining that the idea of the Torah to be for the sake of the world, which seemingly doesn't make any sense. How can something which is higher be for something lower? Because in a certain degree, the world has the level of Hashem's essence, the level of Atzmus, because of Mitziusim, Atzmusai, Torah is more like Oir, and because of its connection with the essence, the world, when it comes Mashiach's time, is going to become revealed with the Jewish people, its higher source, and that's why the creation of the world is also called Chukah Shamayim Ba'aretz. Chukah is from the word Chakika, because its connection with Hashem is in a way of engraving, of being completely one and joined with Hashem. And that way, it's higher than the Torah, and the Torah becomes the cause and the reason for our existence in this world, for the creation of the world, and so on. Even though we always say that the end is always more valuable than the means. In this case, also the end, which is the world, has in it a higher shortage even than Torah. Now he's going to explain that since Torah is what leads us there, so Torah must reflect these things as well. So he says in his Dalet line 16, since the Torah is called the blueprints and the different writings of an architect, Al Yodam Nivra Olam, that through them the world was created, the Torah is likened to a blueprint. Hashem looked into the blueprint and created the world. So therefore, if the world has a concept of Chakika and completely engraved and one with Hashem and inseparable, just like the letters of engraving is with the stone upon which it's engraved. So we must say that this is also to be found, engraving versus writing is to be found also in Torah. Move in line 18 is understood. That the two levels that were mentioned earlier in the world has to be also in Torah. That's why in Torah there are the two types of Torah. There is the written Torah and there is the engraved Torah. Written is the Sefer Torah that we have. The 24 books of Tanakh, they are written down. They are considered Torah Shebeksav. Kika, that's Taser Sadibris. Taser Sadibris are engraved on stone. This means as follows. In addition to the two matters of the written Torah and the oral Torah, the Torah Shabbat in Yonei Dibur. What is the idea of the oral Torah? That's the idea of speech. But Torah Shabbat in Yonei Ksiva, and the written Torah is about being written and writing. And writing, we say that the ink becomes joined with the parchment. But it's still two separate things that are joined together, and therefore it can be separated. And higher than that, even yes, but Torah Kinas Niles Yoser and Torah is an even higher level. Doing Nachkika, that's the idea of the engraving in Torah. So we've established that Torah has the two levels of Kika and Ksiva. Now a further point. Torah brings to mitzvahs. So mitzvahs, which are reflective of Torah, should also happen. Since the greatness of learning is that it brings to action. Just like there's these two levels in Torah, there has to be also these two levels in mitzvahs as well. What are the two levels of mitzvahs that represent writing versus engraving? Mitzvahs shall be tambadas. The mitzvahs that are based on reason, that is like the level of writing. Chukim shalomayim tambadas. Chukim from the word chakika, the super rational decree. They're beyond reason. That's related to the unity of chakika, of being joined completely with Hashem, because when a person fulfills a mitzvah that's based on reason, so the person's own ego and self and understanding is involved. So therefore, there's a certain amount of separation between him and Hashem, between him and the Torah, between him and the mitzvah, because there's his ego. Whereas mitzvahs that are super rational, and I'm only doing it because Hashem said, so it has a greater sense of bittul, greater bittul to Hashem, greater connection with the Torah. So therefore, those are called chukim, from the word chakika, that my connection is in such a way that I'm engraved and completely bound up with it, that we are inseparable. So, and also, if you look at it in a logical way, if the reason I'm doing a mitzvah is based on logic, so then there could come along logic and find a situation where, you know what, in this case, we're not going to do it because logically or whatever other reason will override the logic not to do it. But if my commitment to Torah is beyond logic, so then there's nothing that can override it, because it's something that's done just because it's completely part of me. It's completely one with me. That's the idea of chukim. That's the idea of chakika in the mitzvahs. Just like in the world is considered chakuk, its connection with Hashem is in a way of engraving. Just like in Torah, there's a level of engraving. So too, in my commitment to mitzvahs, which is the super rational mitzvahs, chukim, it's in a way of engraving. Top of page Yud base. That's what it says. These are the chukis of the Torah that Abaye commanded, and we ask, why does it say Shtei Pamim Havaya? Why does it say twice Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei? Could have said it much shorter and just saying it once, that this is what Hashem said. No, the whole Makim Shenemar Shtei Pamim Havaya b'Pasuk, wherever it says twice Havaya in the same pasuk, who the meaning behind this is Shashem Harishan Ubezeir Ampin. The first name Havavaya that appears in the pasuk is talking about the midos of Atzilus, and Vasheni Huba'atik, and the second one is in the level of Atik, the level of Pnimius HaKeser, that's higher in the world. This is also two levels often identified as the lower Havaya and the higher Havaya. The Zeir Ampin Wadaim of the level of Zeir Ampin, the midas of Atzilus, is still measured and bounded. Literally, if you look at the words Zeir Ampin, it means small faces. In other words, smallness indicates constriction, limitation. The Apel Pishu Alakus, though Zeir Ampin is the midas of Atzilus. And Atzilus, we know, is godliness. It's he and his and the Oidus of Atzilus are one, he and the Kalim of Atzilus are one. But still in all, Hanreizeh, Kepishin is Samson. That's still the way godliness was already constricted. That's the meaning of small faces. What's the idea of small faces? Small mirrors. So what is this referring to? So in the commentary on the side, he says story to be able to explain what is the small mirrors about. So there was once a non-believer that asked Rav Meir, how could it be if it says that that Hashem says, I fill the heavens and the earth, how could it be that Hashem could speak to Moshe from amongst between the two poles of the Aron? So he told this non-believer, bring me a big mirror. So he brought him a big mirror, and he said, do you see your reflection in that mirror? What type of reflection do you see? A big reflection. Now he told him, bring me a small mirror. So he brought him a small mirror. So he told him, now look at your reflection. So he says, what's the reflection? It's a small reflection. He says, if you that are a human being could change yourself to whatever you want, you could have a big reflection, a big revelation of yourself, and a small reflection. How much more so with Hashem? That Hashem can also have a huge reflection in such a way that he fills the heavens and the earth, And then you can have like the small channeled reflection that comes through the two poles that are. The Torah explains further that this is a level of. It doesn't mean that it's a different level or a lower level. It's the actual level of Sovev Kalam itself that becomes revealed, just like it's the same person that's becoming revealed in the smaller mirror or the bigger mirror. So that's the idea he explains of Ze'er Anpin. That Ze'er Anpin, which is called the small faces, has in it Arich Anpin. But it's just coming out in a way like in a small reflection. Back to the text, line 9, Mashenkin Atik, as opposed to Atik Yom in the inner part of Keser. Why is it called Atik? One of the meanings in the word Atik, the simple meaning in the pasuk of Atik Yom, where it says in Daniel, means ancient, old. But also Atik, Chassidus explains, Molshain Netak, from the expression that it's uprooted, meaning Venivdal, it's separated, it's something beyond the spheres, beyond the limited revelation. It doesn't have the constricted revelation. Atik is like the big mirrors that give an unlimited aspect of Hashem. So now talking about these two levels of Havaya, the higher level of Havaya, of the lower level of Havaya. So this is the idea of which level of godliness we reach. Now we reach not just the level of Ze'er Ampin, the limited form, but since we're talking about Chakika, engraving, we're talking about the ultimate connection with godliness beyond Seder Ishtalshus. So that's why it says in the line 11, and the idea of the engraving in the Torah. That's why it says Chukas HaTorah. It says over here, this is the chuk of the Torah. The Torah also has a level of engraving, like we said before. Kashur im chukish shebehem chakakti shemayim v'aretz. That part of the Torah, which is a level of engraving, is connected also to what we said before. There's the engraving, the chukish shemayim v'aretz. That with that Hashem engraved and was united with the heavens and the earth. But the world left to its own devices doesn't manifest that, doesn't express its unity and the engraved nature that's one with godliness. For that, we need to have Torah, and especially the chukim of the Torah to reveal that new world. So he says in line 13, V'hainu, through the level of the super rational part of the Torah, we draw down the levels of the chukos, the engraved part of the heavens and the earth. Through the fact that the Neshamas of Yidden are involved in Torah mitzvahs in a way of engraving, they also reveal in the world the level of engraving. That's what Torah's chakika does. Torah's chukim, Torah's super rational connection with Hashem. When Yid take that Torah and connect with Hashem in a super rational way, they reveal the engraved aspect of the world, how the world is connected with Hashem in a engraved way that it's not, there's no separation between them. Any questions? Hey, line 18, towards the bottom of page Yud base. That's where it says these or this is the chukah of the Torah. It says chukah and then Torah. We need a preface. Torah study, we need to preface it, and also mitzvahs, I'll also explain. We need to preface it with chukah, with the engraving, with the super rational commitment to Hashem. I know this means that initially there has to be the idea of the engraving type of connection with Hashem to Inyan Kabbalah soil. That's the idea of accepting the yoke of heaven, doing it just what Hashem told us, which is the whole idea of chukim of super rational mitzvahs. Therefore, when we do it in such a way that's super rational, we are completely connected like the letters that are engraved on stone. Al derech ha'inyan, the beirch b'Torah, similar to the idea making the bracha on Torah. Initially, why do we need to make a bracha before studying Torah? So it says the Hainu lahamshech Torah tchila benoisna Torah. We need to initially draw down in Torah from the giver of the Torah and to recognize and to express the connection of Torah with Hashem before we actually immerse ourselves with the Torah, or else we can lose track of that connection and lose that which the Torah is supposed to give us, that connection of Hashem with the world. The mitzvahs in a similar vein, also mitzvahs, before one does a mitzvah, shetzadachli is tchila, there has to be beforehand hakdamas, kabbalah oil. There has to be the first acceptance of the yoke of heaven, top of Yud Gimel, similar to the idea of Nasa Koydem Nishma, even in the mitzvahs itself, and the whole idea of the chukim and even mishpatim have to be done in a way that it's beyond reason and understanding. Now, the Maimer is going to bring this back to the simple topic that the pasuk is talking about. What is the Torah talking about where it says Zayis Chuksa Torah? Talking about the mitzvah paraduma. That is line 1. It is a kosher mitzvah paraduma. This matter is connected with the mitzvah of the paraduma. Allah Namar Zayis Chukas HaTorah Stam. Concerning paraduma, it just says this is the chukah of the Torah. Like we asked right away at the beginning of the Maimer, not like Pesach. By Pesach it says Zois chukas ha-Pesach. By paraduma it says Zois chukas ha-Torah. That it seems to be indicating that paraduma somehow has to do with the choik of the entire Torah. We call this kol Torah because the idea of para aduma is the general idea of the Torah. How come? What is it about para aduma? That's the general idea of the entire Torah. The entire purpose, the entire idea of Torah is to be drawn towards Hashem, to pull towards Hashem, and then to draw down godliness down here, and then to return down here. Sometimes it's explained that's the difference between mitzvahs asa and mitzvahs loisa. Mitzvahs asa, we're bringing godliness into the item that I'm doing. And mitzvahs loisa says I'm removing myself from the world, holding myself back, going upwards. Or in general, my whole connection has to be a rotzi v'shuv connection with Hashem through Torah mitzvahs in general. But that is exemplified the most in the mitzvah of paradum. The clothes in the Maisa paradum, the general idea of the making of the paraduma is also both things of Ratzi v'Shoyv, because the paraduma is a combination of two things together. There's the ashes of the red heifer of the paraduma. Ashes are created by fire. Fire draws upwards. It's a level of Ratzi. Then it has to be v'nasatois or mayim chaim al keli. You have to put it into spring water. Water, we know, is the opposite of fire. Water is that mayim yerdim makom number. Water descends from a high place to a low place, so it's the level of shuv. So the tara, the paraduma, is not the afer alone, ashes alone, the water alone, but you need to mix the two together. So the paraduma, the mitzvah paraduma, is an expression of our general avodah that involves rotzi v'shuv. Line 6. The kama biyurim namru b'zeh. There are many explanations given for why paraduma is connected with the rotzi v'shuv. Now he's going to connect it with the idea of tshuva. Ad l'bir hayidu, until the well-known explanation, she'inyan paraduma kashur im inyan hatshuva. That the paraduma is connected with the idea of tshuva. How is the paraduma connected with the idea of tshuva? Because shazel k'moish shematzim, that's what we find. Shekeshem shel paraduma yashna inyan shemetamis atahoydim u'metayres atmeim. Hora Aduma has two contradictory things. On the one hand, it makes the person that is Tahir Tameh, the one who actually sprinkles the Hora Aduma juices, liquid, on someone that's Tameh, he himself, the Kohen himself that does so, becomes himself Tameh. On the other hand, it's Metaher as Atmeim. It makes the Talmudic person, it makes them Tahir. What does that have to do with Shuvah? Like in a similar vein, you find this also in the idea of Shuvah. Shuvah is the idea of Metayer Satoirim, Metame Satoirim, Metayer Satmeim. So he brings in the note that obviously Shuvah is something that's Metayer Satmeim because the Baal Shuvah was before in an unholy, inappropriate situation. And now the Baal Shuvah is purified. What is the Tahirim that's become Tameh? The tzaddik that is making the Baal Shuvah needs to lower himself and engage in matters of the Baal Shuvah. Therefore, to a certain degree, for the level of the tzaddik, it's considered that even beforehand he was removed from this world that the Baal Shuvah is in, and now he has to be mitame es hatahirim. He needs to take, even though he's pure, now he has to lower himself and engage with the negative things and the world of the Baal Shuvah to bring him back. We have this expression that says, "Hama'avik misnavel ganke." Someone that's wrestling with someone that is filthy, he's wrestling with him because he wants to either get him out of the filth or he wants to prevent that person from making other things filthy. But in the process of wrestling, he himself becomes dirtied as well. So in a similar vein, the tzaddik temporarily, at the time that he's engaging with the person, before that person has become the Baal Shuvah, so he can become dirtied and sullied by that conflict. Another expression of where we see this type of rotzui, the shuv, or this type of tamei, metame as hatahoidim, where we see that the pure becomes impure in the tshuva process. So we don't have to talk about the tzaddik and the mal tshuva, but in the person doing tshuva themselves, there's the process of where the impurity is becoming pure. But on the other hand, there's a process of really bringing about impurity. What does that mean? Line 11, he says in the brackets, like it's also emphasizing the fact that the general idea of tshuva is through sadness and bitterness. On its own, the idea of sadness and bitterness is not a wanted for thing. Only if there is a need for it for tshuva. If not for tshuva, the Ivdos Hashem b'simcha has to be the idea of serving Hashem with joy. So we have the metame esatahoidim, engaging with sadness and bitterness and being upset. These are like negative things that, because of the unique situation of dealing with tshuva, a person needs to engage in temporarily. So even though in general tshuva is mitaher satmeim, it purifies the person that's tamei, but by being involved in something that's negative in such a type of way, so it also makes him lefierach impure. Then the Rebbe goes on. There's even a higher level in tshuva. That's about tshuva and avedas. What about the higher level of tshuva? Tshuva is a ruach tashva l'kim Hashem nesana. So he said in line 15, Valderech said, tshuva in the higher level of tshuva, along with the higher level of tshuva, which is the higher level of tshuva is ruach tashv el l'kim Hashem nesana, that the spirit will return to the Eibishter that gave it. הרי זה שייך דווקא שלפני ששב. When is it applicable to have the Ruach Tashva Elokim Asher Nasan? Only before he did Shuvah, then Sha'asar Echlias Avidosi from the Yelchu Mechayel Chayil, then it has to be his avoided that he's going from strength to strength. Mashenkin Lachri Shachav, as opposed to after he does Shuvah. Ukamai Loss, Lovi, for example, Mashiach's times. Shiyim Matzah, Maimed of Matzah of the Shabbos and Menucha L'chayei Olam, it will be a state of there will be rest forever and ever. There won't be any more the level of going up to a certain degree. In the Mitzad Haiskashus L'chayei Olam, because the bond with the life of all the world for Hashem, Maimed of Matzah. But the state and situation will be in a way of a rest without any ascent. He won't be going up higher. Therefore, there won't be the idea of the spirit returning to Hashem, because that he will be in such a state that he will be completely bottled and united with Hashem. So, in other words, we see that Tshuva also has the rushing and return, because the only way you could rush towards Hashem is because you have a distance. So as long as you are going through this level of higher and higher, that means there's still a Shuv component as well, where you're not in that level. And the Rebbe says that this idea that a person will be at rest when Mashiach comes, so he says, well, to know the Indians that Shaykh Gambas Golos, this is also applicable in the time of exile. I say you do like the well-known story, the Bittel idiot. Bittel gave that Bittel is walking. There was a story that the Chassidim were in Russia sitting many hours in the Chassidish Fabrengen, and at the end of the Fabrengen, while going and walking home, still under the influence of the Fabrengen, so a police officer stopped someone and he says, "Who's walking? Who goes there?" He said, "Bittel is going there." So we see that even it's possible, even at the time of Golos, to have that complete nullification. Home, it's usually who in our Bittel is entire being is the idea of Bittel. Then the idea of Tshuva does not apply, because Tshuva means the distance and the return, the Rotzi and Shuv. So now, going back to what we're talking about, line 3 on page Yud Dalet, the idea of Tshuva is a general part of Torah Mitzvah. So that's why it's understood why Parah Aduma, which exemplifies Tshuva, because of the Rotzi V'Shuv, is something that is the Chukas HaTorah, not just like Pesach, Zos Chukas HaPesach. That's why in Parah Aduma it says this is the Chuk of the Torah. Plain, no other description. Since it's the general and all-encompassing level of all the mitzvahs. In addition to it being the general idea of chukim. That's why specifically about the mitzvah of Parah Aduma, since it was the general chayk, the ultimate chayk, the highest type of chayk. So Shlomo Melech said, I said I would be wise, and it was very distant from me, because even Shlomo Melech understood all the mitzvahs, even other chukim. When it came to the chayk of Parah Aduma, he didn't understand. So through that, through Parah Aduma, this inspires and draws down the bond of Hashem with a Yid in a way of engraving that should be manifest also in all the other mitzvahs. Because since Chukkas HaTorah, the Parah Aduma is the general mitzvah. And to such degree that through the Chukkas of the Torah, we reveal also in the world, like we said before, the idea of the engraving, the Chukkos, that with them Hashem engraved the heavens and the earth. Through this, and we draw down, we effect down here below 10 handbreadths of the world should be a home for the Eibush down here below. Until the one who lives in it, and the home become joined and they are as one, like we were talking about engraving. Yes, Mashiach Tzidkenu, Meir Mamish, and the coming Mashiach Tzidkenu, speedily in our days, Mamish.